Oh, starting off the episode with a bang.
I can't think of any other way to start our annual holiday pregame.
That's right.
Than some Beyond Parody stories.
Hitto's third annual holiday pregame to remind you.
Mm-hmm.
Special thanks to everyone that's been with us the whole way, and welcome for all the new listeners. If this is your first current modern holiday pregame, we're glad to have you here.
I did go back and look. You were right. We did record 2 holiday pregames the first year.
That's right.
And then we just did 1 last year. So this is technically number 4, but it's the 3rd year we've done it. Mm-hmm. And for those of you that have caught the previous 3, you know, I love you non-parasocially as a very close, intimate friend. And I'm glad that we share this non-parasocial connection. But we rang the Beyond Parody bell. Yeah. Because we've got, I think, 3+ Beyond Parody stories to talk about.
We've got a good bit.
Yeah. Before we get into our holiday pregame episode. And I want to start with the upcoming holiday, Thanksgiving.
Okay. Who doesn't love giving thanks, giving back, having good food?
Exactly.
Do you know?
Yeah. So you are all aware, I'm sure, of the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Culture.
Of course, right. Yeah, it's like it's an American thing. It's a thing that happens every year.
White people have no culture? Come on now.
Well, there's this conservative group called 1 Million Moms, and they are seemingly committed to calling out the wokeness and the depravity of the parade this year. And they launched a petition regarding the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Okay. And I figured I would just read a couple of excerpts from the petition so you guys can get an idea of what conservatives are thinking about this time of the year.
What possible float could they be like up in arms about this? Oh no.
This is the first paragraph I'm going to read to you guys from this petition. The non-binary and transgender extravaganza on display this Thanksgiving will be brought to you by Macy's during their annually sponsored Thanksgiving Day Parade. Unless they are forewarned about it, this year's holiday parade will potentially expose tens of millions of viewers at home to the liberal LGBTQ agenda.
That's crazy.
Now, I want you to take a guess. What do you think they're mad about?
I genuinely have no idea. Like, the only fucking floats that I, like, remember every year, it's, like, fucking Baby Yoda and, like, Luffy. Or Goku.
Okay.
Like sick ones, you know?
See, it's not even a specific float that they're mad about.
Oh, just the principle?
They're angry about 2 individuals that will be a part of the parade this year. And I'm going to continue reading.
Are there even individuals like part of the parade? Like just like driving through?
I think they like sing as it goes by.
Oh,
you know what
okay,
I mean?
yeah.
Like the Broadway performances. Right. So this is the second paragraph. Performances showcased in the parade will include music from 2 Broadway musicals and Juliet and Shucked, both of which feature transgender and non-binary performers in major roles.
That's it?
This entire petition is angry about there being a trans performer and there being a non-binary performer at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. That's it.
You're telling me they're up in arms. 1 million moms are up in arms about just seeing a trans person and a non-binary person?
Yeah.
That's
and it's like out of how many, hundreds or thousands of people that'll be a part of this parade that are a part of it every year, you're mad about 2 individuals that'll be on screen for maybe 30 seconds.
Maybe not even on screen, really.
Yeah.
Maybe just there. And besides, do you actually sit down and watch the parade every year? Or do you just put it on in the background while you're preparing food and getting ready to argue with your family members?
That's exactly it. It's like we've got hundreds of thousands. We've got many homeless people in this country. Yeah. We've got tens of thousands of people that go without health care in this country. We've got 40 million plus people in student debt that they can't afford to pay back, and we're worried about 2 LGBTQ people being in the Thanksgiving Day
that you
parade.
Can see just because you can see them. Not even like are they even in prominent roles? Like, are they getting up there and singing?
I think they're just doing whatever.
They're just existing.
Yeah, whatever part they're a part of, singing whatever part they're a part of.
They're existing in one section of this like hours long parade.
Yeah, that's too much. Liberal indoctrination.
Oh my god, man!
And this petition's got 38,000 signatures.
38,000. What happened to the 1 million moms?
Yeah, well,
what's going on with that?
But I saw this news story and it blew me away that this is what conservatives are angry about heading into Thanksgiving. It's not that like some people won't be able to buy a fucking turkey to put on their table.
Yeah,
it's that there might be gay people on screen during a program that you don't really pay attention to.
Man, that's so cool.
Macy's Thanksgiving Gay Parade. However.
Okay, that's not where it ends, folks.
That's where that story ends. But I have another Beyond Parody section.
Yes,
and then we actually have a couple more that we need to talk about. The first one though is regarding, or I guess the second one is regarding Elon Musk. Did you? I think you might have seen some of this.
I've seen bits and pieces everywhere. I saw. I won't spoil it, but I've seen a little bit of it. I know the gist.
So we're talking about Elon Musk, and I have an insane set of tweets that I simply have to read to you all.
Yes.
So this first one is under a post that is basically saying something along the lines of, if you're posting under the guise of anonymity right now that Hitler was right, quote unquote, why don't you show your face and say it to me like a real man? Like that kind of thing. It's a sort of challenge, right? It's saying like, you're being a bitch about it. If you really think Hitler was right, say it with your chest.
Did he get in the replies just with the hand up emoji? Just right here? Right here?
So this isn't Elon Musk. This is another person that's on Twitter. And they say this. They say, quote, okay, Jewish communities have been pushing the exact kind of dialectical hatred against whites that they claim to want people to stop using against them. I'm deeply disinterested in giving the tiniest shit now about Western Jewish populations coming to the disturbing realization that those hordes of minorities that support flooding their country don't exactly like them too much. You want the truth said to your face, there it is.
That's somebody got on
Jewish
there and said, if you think Hitler is right, go ahead and say it with your chest, and he did.
And he did.
On a public platform.
Elon Musk comes through under this post and he says, this is all he says, you have said the actual truth. So we've got Elon Musk, the owner of Twitter, the person who controls, quote unquote, the town hall and free speech in the town hall, openly Jewish question posting, right?
Just magnifying the reach literally as much as he could as the owner of the platform, whose fucking tweets get pushed onto everyone's feed, magnifying the Jewish question.
Yes.
That's insane.
Like, to be clear, to boil down what this first dude said, he said that the Jewish elite or the Jewish community is allowing non-whites to come into the country and genocide white people. That's the Nazi argument.
Great replacement. Like, he's just doing great replacement. He said yes, and Elon said, yeah, that's true, actually.
Yeah. And given current events, he's like, oh, now you want us white people to come save Jewish people now that the same thing's happening to you? You're a Nazi if you think this.
That's so crazy. Every November, we were talking about this before we started recording, every November the Hitler particles just come out of the air and it takes people by storm. I don't understand.
And this line of argumentation is not different from what we saw Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson talking about recently.
Oh, man.
Tucker Carlson doesn't get as much attention as he used to, but they were speaking because Candace Owens, being basically a Nazi, was having some kind of argument with Ben Shapiro on Twitter. Over some Daily Wire feud. Candace Owens said, you've been emotional over what's happening recently.
I didn't quite understand it, but I thought, as soon as I saw the emotional line, I thought that she was coming at it from the angle where it's like, oh, you are Jewish, and you're just being emotional in your support of Israel. And it's like, whoa.
And it's the same argument, right? It's saying, Jewish people want us to support them now, but they've been flooding our country with non-white people to hurt white people in the United States, which is the Nazi argument, white replacement, right? And then Candace Owens found, I guess, support with Tucker Carlson, because Tucker Carlson was literally just talking about white genocide on his program. And Candace Owens was like, I absolutely agree. So,
oh, man. Oh, my goodness.
Hitler particles going crazy.
I think was it with Tucker or was it with Charlie Kirk where she got on and she talked about, now all these Jewish people are withdrawing funding from universities. Like, you funded the halls of academia and their genocide of white people. You wanted this to happen and now you expect help?
Yeah. No, it's just, it's Nazi shit. It's almost one for one exactly what Nazis said back in the 1930s, of course. But we got Elon Musk just Nazi posting, which is quite beyond parody.
And then I think he got on yesterday. He lost huge sponsors because of this. I think, was that IBM?
IBM, Apple, and a bunch of other companies.
Apple withdrew too?
Apple withdrew. And Apple's
biggest company in the world?
Yeah, that's like capitalism, the company, right?
The figurehead right there. And I think he was panicking or something. He got on and he posted, if you're posting from the river to the sea, that is a blatant call for the genocide of Jewish people. It necessarily... he said, if you're posting from the river to the sea or anything about decolonizing Israel, that necessarily is a call for genocide, because what else could decolonize mean except get rid of all the Jews? And it's like, one, you just retweeted shit that's basically get rid of all the Jews. And two, people say decolonize America all the fucking time.
Also, it is telling that he thinks that calls for decolonization necessarily threaten white people.
Yeah.
It's like decolonization is an effort to ensure marginalized groups are no longer placed under apartheid conditions, oppressive conditions, discriminatory conditions. It's not usually never saying kill all white people.
Yeah, and it's not they just fucking take over everything all the time and now the other people are the minorities.
Yeah, I mean, there's factions among decolonization movements that, of course, would want to just flip the script.
Oh, yeah.
But by and large, saying decolonization or being pro-decolonization is being pro-freedom. And to say that decolonization necessarily threatens white people is... Nazi adjacent, I'd say.
I'm saying, and one of the funniest parts about that tweet from Elon isn't like necessarily the tweet itself. It was a reply from some fucking guy, like right under his post. I'm gonna assume it was a Jewish guy because he got on and he said, "Oh, thank you so much for like speaking out about this, blah blah blah. Sure. Nobody should be able to go out and like genocide post." Elon Musk replied to him and said, "Yes, this is so true." But then I looked at those replies, and Homeboy was genocide posting. Homeboy on his Twitter said, "We need to burn down Gaza right now."
It's so asymmetrical.
Cry bullying, crocodile tears. Come on.
It's so crazy to see like the anti-Semitism and the Islamophobia just duking it out in their heads.
Oh my God,
like,
I know.
They can't decide which they want to be. They got to pick a side. But they just keep going back and forth because they hate both groups equally. It's so perfect.
Speaking of people, I guess being on the wrong side of things, or not, I guess being able to parse through information, have any media literacy, I swear to God, the online left is never going to be able to come back.
Oh no,
from
we're
these
cooked.
Last 2 weeks. The most recent fiasco I've seen going around TikTok that I think is just genuinely concerning is people getting on their accounts, talking about how a certain guy, will call him Mr. fucking terrorist, Mr. 9/11, Osama bin Laden himself. They're talking about reading his letter to America that he published in 2002 after the 9/11 attacks, basically condemning American imperialism and calling for jihad and doing other bad extremist things, saying that brought fucking tears to their eyes.
What is wrong with you?
I don't want to say rallying behind it, but like getting behind the message of it. They're like, yeah, like he made some really good points in there. One, Osama bin Laden did not make a point against American imperialism that, I don't know, other academics who didn't kill 2,000 people and do the terrorist attack like ever happened. Billions of other people have made those points. You go to journalists, authors, academics, and you can find everything that he's saying. Why are you rallying behind it when it's Mr. Terrorist and not when it's like in the news? Not when JSTOR publishes their articles about millions of civilians dead in the Middle East.
This is why I had the gut reaction that like whoever started this is just a fucking fed.
I'm saying,
like, there's no way any actual leftist, maybe I'm just coping here, but there's no way any actual leftist arrived to that conclusion.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just a federal agent that wants to like throw a wrench in the works, as they've been known to do.
Well, it's like, I think it's just a symptom of people on the, ostensibly on the left, just also being reactionaries.
Yeah.
Because a good portion, I read a little bit of it this morning. I read like a good bit of the beginning, skimmed through the rest. A good portion of the first part of the letter is talking about how America is talking about what goes on in Palestine and how America funds like Israel's harsh treatment of people in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. And it's framed around kind of that conflict for a little bit. And I think that's what has got people in. Because they're taking the popularity of, not popularity, but what's happening at the genocide in Gaza, and they're saying, oh yeah, Osama bin Laden was talking about this a while ago.
We Ben knew this.
Yeah, I'm saying.
Other people, namely not people that were Osama bin Laden, were saying the same thing back then.
And that's the point. like that's the point. We've certainly been saying this for like, what, 2 years now?
Yeah.
For at least the span of 3 annual holiday pregame episodes.
Precisely.
But, oh my God, that's crazy. And it's also... I just don't like the framing and the rhetoric behind just picking apart the good parts of something that Osama bin Laden said. This is one of those guys that you could just never get behind.
Yeah.
Like, no matter what he says is right, you can never get behind if you want to be taken seriously, broadly by the public. And it's not like he said anything novel, except he continues to go on and say that AIDS was a disease brought by Satan to get gay people to rid the country of sexual immorality.
Yeah.
Like, you guys deserved AIDS because of your sexual immorality. That's a wild thing to say, dog. That's a wild thing to not mention when you're co-signing his letter.
Speaking of Hitler particles, holy moly, dog.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, no. If you're a leftist that is genuinely posting about Osama bin Laden's letter being, like, elucidating or something, I don't know what to tell you, dog.
Yeah.
Go outside.
Just look at, read a book. Pick up a book. Go to the library and peruse.
And it's not like anything Osama bin Laden has to say about Palestine is anything new to the left, right? Like, again, we've been saying this. None of this is new information or new analysis that someone who targeted intentionally innocent civilians is going to be able to tell you.
Who justified that targeting of innocent civilians in his letter, in the beginning of his letter. I know you fucking saw it where he said, oh, everyone who votes in America is complicit in everything that goes on because you can change it. I don't know if this is your very first episode about Hiddo, but last episode we had an extensive conversation about that and the moral culpability behind voting. I won't get back into it, but that is wholly entirely wrong. How American soldiers come from American civilians, so you're all complicit, and a bunch of other reasons to say why no American civilian should be treated as a civilian, and then at the end a blatant call to like martyrdom.
Yeah,
he said we are a nation that is willing to die more than you want to live. Like, whoa.
Also, it's like that's collective punishment, which is not dissimilar to what Israel is doing right now. Like, it's the same logic behind it. And if you think the logic is wrong when Israel does it, as it is, then you got to apply that elsewhere. Let's be consistent, please. Especially when we're talking about genocide. I don't know.
Things that matter.
What another Beyond Parody section right there.
That's what I'm saying. But I do believe we have one more story, one more very fun thing that happened in the halls of power.
This one is less related to genocide. Actually, isn't related to genocide at all, which is cool.
Exactly. Nothing to do with Hitler in this one.
I'm sure you all already saw this, but there was a fight that almost broke out in a Senate committee hearing.
So cool.
Basically, Bernie Sanders runs the Senate Labor Committee, or whatever it's called. I don't know the exact name. And they had the president of Teamsters come in. Cool guy, right? You know, union president.
That's right.
And apparently, there's a senator from Oklahoma. His name is Mark Wayne Mullen. Mark Wayne is his first name.
Okay.
No hyphenation. It's just Mark Wayne.
Mark Wayne.
Mark Wayne.
No space. No hyphenation. Nothing. Mark Wayne. Oh my
crazy
God.
name.
All right. Yeah. Sure.
And he apparently got angry that the Teamsters president O'Brien, I don't remember his first name, posted about him on Twitter saying that he's months ago saying that he's like a small man and like I could take you in a fight anytime, any place.
Yeah.
Mark Wayne Mullen brings this up in Congress and says
he invited him to this hearing.
Yeah. And he's like, you want to go right now? And then he's like, the president of Teamsters is like, yeah, sure. And then he's like, stand up then. And Mark Wayne Mullen stands up.
And then the Teamsters guy said, no, you stand up first. Clearly fucking baiting him into it. And he took it. He bit like a silly little fish. He got up and he goes, starts rolling his sleeves up, going to take his ring off. And Bernie's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Like, how insecure do you got to be? You're a United States senator.
One of the most powerful people in the world.
You have your hands on the levers of power. Like, you don't got to challenge a Teamsters president to a fight. Also, at the same time, it's like, why would you ever challenge the Teamsters union to anything? Do you know what they do to people?
You know what they've done to people? Kind of why unions can get a bad name sometimes now.
Like, historically, I wouldn't be picking a fight with the union. You know what I'm saying? A good union president is one that does corruption. Like, I'm not. A good union president's one that breaks knees when he has to. I'm just saying.
It's just absolutely fucking insane. And then I think he tried to like schedule an actual fight. Like he's fucking Jake Paul and trying to do an influencer boxing match with this guy.
Yeah.
Like, dog, you are a senator. This is so embarrassing. So incredibly embarrassing.
I saw Mark Wayne Mullen had an interview, I guess like a post-match interview, sort of, where he was like, this isn't a new thing. Previous political figures would challenge others to fights in the Hall of Congress before. And the person he cited was Andrew Jackson. It's like, Andrew Jackson, one of the most evil people in U.S. history. That's the guy that you're like, I want to be just like him. Like, what's wrong with you?
And it's like, frankly, I'm all for fights in Congress. Like, I'm all for senators.
This is great.
Keyword senators, plural, duking it out. Don't invite some civilian on to a committee hearing and then try to fight him right then and there. Like that.
It is hilarious, though.
It's so beyond parody.
And the Teamsters president just walked him right into it, too. It was perfect. He was just like, yeah, fine, let's do it right now.
Such an insecure man. Yeah. Such an insecure man.
But this has been Beyond Parody with Hiddo.
Yes, it has.
I think it's time to get into the episode.
100%. I hope you're all ready to gobble it up in this third annual holiday pregame, because
that's right.
Frankly, it's time to get into it. Welcome back to another show, another week, another hour and a half maybe with your two of your favorite boys on the left.
It's another certified Hiddo original.
That's right.
It's another holiday pregame episode, part 4. And once again, just like the last couple that we've done, we are going to prepare you with all the arguments you'll need to survive the holidays this season, whether you're celebrating Thanksgiving or any other holiday.
And whether or not you're a patron, because let me remind you that patrons get this episode on Sunday.
That's right.
So they get a couple days to warm up the takes, to practice in the mirror, to get ready.
Really, the fight's already started.
Exactly.
You should be preparing now.
It's always going. Yeah. But for the rest of you, the regular Wednesday weenies, as you've dubbed yourselves, you still have Wednesday night to prepare because we're coming out on Thanksgiving
Eve. We call this holiday pregame, but really the holidays have already begun. And if you're not preparing before the actual fight starts, the literal contest of intellectual willpower, then you're just not going to win. It's like the Hunger Games. It's all a part of the game.
Sometimes relatives come in the night before. You got flights going in. The fight starts now.
Don't be caught off guard. I'm urging you to not be caught off guard. And our patrons, they're just going to be even more prepared. But if you have to listen on Wednesday, you'll still be prepared with all the arguments you need to deal with people on Thursday, Friday, and for the rest of the year.
That's okay. And there are plenty of other ways that you can support us completely for free, like following us on social media, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. I'm sure y'all came from TikTok anyway. Or leaving a 5-star review on Apple, trying to get us on that new and noteworthy so we can grow the message, you know what I'm saying?
That's right.
So today, because every 5-star review we read, we have a couple here.
We do have a few.
You all have listened to my pleas and my cries 2 weeks ago, and we'll start with The Best Way to Keep Yourself from Insanity by Elora Borealis. There might not be a more universal experience for young leftists than feeling like an anomaly in U.S. politics between the corny liberals and the insane Republicans. At least that's how it felt for me living in a pretty red area, the Unita Mountains. Jeremy and Gage allow you to laugh and poke fun at the circus going on and keeps you from going absolutely crazy. They also inspire me to be a better leftist and advocate even more if that just means keeping my little brothers from getting sucked down the YouTube shorts right-wing pipeline. That's a very real form of praxis right there. I can't stress that enough.
YouTube Shorts is crazy.
YouTube Shorts is nuts. YouTube, maybe it's a little better than it was before, but that's just cesspool. Thank you for all you do, and I can't wait to keep listening and recommending this pod to anyone who might be interested or in equal measure might be upset at me for trying to indoctrinate them into leftist politics. Much love, even if it is parasocial.
It's not.
Social.
It's not. It's straight up social.
Real and social.
Yeah. Our next review here by A Brook 82. Join the Hiddo woke mob today. They say, I've been looking for a place to talk with other leftists, as most places in the online spaces are almost allergic to politics. Luckily, after finding these boys, I've found my people. Not only do these two provide wonderful insight on the week-to-week news stories and how dreadful they can be, but the Discord server they have running is such a fun and lovely place to hang out, even when times are rough, as they have been. This is more of a Hiddo Discord ad than it is a Hiddo review, but can you blame me? P.S. Join the Sunday sermon so you can join the cool club in the server as well. That's right. Join the Sunday sermon for the low cost of just $5 a month, early access to episodes.
That's right. Come on now. It's a great deal, especially this week. Of all weeks? Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness.
The best week to do it, really.
Well, even though you will have heard this after, but you can prepare for next year.
Yeah, get out of the game.
Because you bet we'll keep it going, you know what I'm saying? But this, oh, my God, lest we not remind you that this will be the last holiday pregame before the general election.
That's true.
The last Thanksgiving holiday pregame for general election. It's crazy times we live in.
It's coming up quick.
You better get ready now. Let me tell you this next review, My Experience with Jeremy and Gage by Grunkle Ford. I was sitting in the theater watching The Sound of Freedom, and I was quietly eating some beans, keeping to myself like normal, when halfway through the movie, Gage and Jeremy came and sat in the same aisle as me, a few seats away. I noticed them, and my hands got cold. My brow starts to sweat. I can't even focus on the movie. I knew I had to put my beans away. I slowly bent over, trying to place my beans on the floor, out of sight, behind my Hillary 2016 tote bag that contained 47 more cans of beans. I set the open can on the floor, but I was too reckless. The bag toppled over, and the 47 cans of beans rolled onto the floor. I turned and tried to run out of there, but it was too late. They saw. In deep, booming voices, Gage and Jeremy yelled, "Dislib eating beans!" Everyone started laughing. I fell to the floor, defeated. I started weeping. Never have I been so embarrassed. 5 stars.
This might be the first Hiddo fanfic ever created.
That's a good one. It's a good one. It's a good one.
And I see you said 47 cans of beans right after your Hillary 2016 tote bag. Maybe this is a hint that Hillary Clinton will be the 47th president of the United States.
Oh, let's go.
Right after Joe
She'll
Biden.
come through and swoop the nomination.
That's right. Our next review, Good Lefties Listen to Hiddo by Jar Jar Binks Sucks Balls. They say Hiddo is great, no bad takes, all good times. Really enjoy the conversation. Nice to hear from fellow lefties about current affairs. Would pay $6,000 to the Patreon again to monitor each other's online habits via Covenant Eyes. Maybe that's a Christmas present for us.
Whoa. Serious inquiries only, please.
Yeah, that's right.
Whoa now.
Don't disrespect us.
Don't get my hopes up. This last review, #1 geopolitical podcast for a reason by JustB96. I first listened to this podcast a couple months ago, and it instantly became my favorite for politics. A lot of political podcasts are dry, dense, and lack enthusiasm. But Hiddo, to echo other reviewers, is a breath of fresh air. As a borderline millennial Gen Z, I love hearing politics being talked about in our language, for lack of a better word. Something that I really appreciate is that you guys will give a quick background on topics before diving in, instead of assuming the listener already has extensive knowledge on the subject. And you don't rely on jargon to get your points across. I just joined the Discord, and if money wasn't tight, I would already be a patron, still waiting on my check from George Soros for protesting in 2020.
Me too,
Aren't
bro.
we all?
Me too, bro.
Next week, I'm doing a presentation on the importance of honest journalism and staying informed, and I'm putting together a list of my favorite news sources. Not sure if I can announce the name of this one in front of my professor, but I'll let my classmates know about it. Keep up the good work. Whoa. Like come head on in the office. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Head into the office. That's what it's always meant.
Metaphorically, head in the office like your head is in the space of thinking about politics.
That's right. My head space is there. My mind palace. My head's in there, and it's the Oval Office. Like that's what the name means.
Your significant other's like, honey, why aren't you paying attention to the movie? Sorry, my head's just in the office right now.
Exactly.
You're just not present.
100%. Come on. I don't know.
It doesn't mean anything else.
I don't know what else you guys could think it means. I'm trying to scrub the image here.
Yeah. And if any future employer sees this, that's exactly what we've always meant.
That's
never been
always been the intention. It's an unfortunate coincidence that people online have taken such a cool and clever name and bastardized it.
That's right.
And that's where I've always stood and always will stand.
And before we get into our official holiday pregame coverage with some news interspersed, of course. One final announcement.
Yes.
Another way you can support the show and support yourself, your family members, your significant others is go over and buy some Hiddo merch.
That's right. It's the season of giving.
If you use code pregame15 the day this episode comes out, Wednesday, you'll be able to get 15% off your purchase.
That's right.
Of our Hiddo merch. Get yourself a t-shirt, get yourself some stickers, a hat. If you missed the merch drop initially, it's a perfect time to get something 15% off in our store.
Get a little discounts. Come on. Come on.
It's the perfect time. Black Friday, get a family member a gift for Christmas or whatever holiday you are celebrating coming up in December. So
spread the good word. I got the t-shirt on right now. I got the #1. If you're watching the YouTube right now, look at this bad boy. #1 geopolitics podcast, baby. I wear it like every other day.
Frankly, with the amount, the volume of geopolitics we've been talking about recently, you think those are flying off the shelf.
I'm saying.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we should be sold out of those. So get in pregame 15. Link is in the description. The deal will be starting on Wednesday when this episode airs. I think it's time to get into the holiday pregame.
100%.
It is the time of year when families engage in a lot of political arguments. Political arguments really imminent, especially if your family has a lot of hot takes and perhaps is intellectually diverse.
Exactly.
You may have a lot of things to talk about.
Many families are.
You know, you'll be confusingly called both a communist and a fascist at the same time while trying to debunk your uncle's pro-fascism arguments.
And standing firmly on the left, you might face attacks from all sides.
Exactly.
Really.
Yeah. But as always with our holiday pregame episodes, we've got you covered. And I think the first thing we can start off talking about is Israel-Palestine.
There's no more auspicious topic to begin this year's episode with than the current genocide in Gaza. Let's be real.
Obviously, this news story will not die down by the time we get to Thanksgiving or any other holidays. I would assume it's probably going to be an enduring news story. I don't know that your family will necessarily bring this up. A lot of people, you think so?
Yeah, I don't know if it's controversially, but I do think so. I think this will be even if you're not political, I think this will be a Thanksgiving Day topic.
Perhaps I'm biased, but or perhaps my view here is tainted by my experience with my own family, but I feel like they wouldn't bring up something this geopolitical, but maybe your families will. I don't know.
I feel like it's penetrated. Like it's penetrated through to domestic politics. Like we have every senator like rallying behind it. Usually when what's the last big geopolitical thing we talked about? Like Ukraine?
Afghanistan? Well, yeah, Ukraine.
Like
Afghanistan was a big one, though.
I guess like that one was kind of big, but that's not like dinner table big. But this one, you've got every senator actively propagandizing for the genocider. Like, come on.
That's true.
Bro.
I guess I struggle to think that like families would bring this up, specifically conservative family members, because they're oddly in agreement with Biden here, or should be, if they're being consistent, right? Because Biden's doing everything a conservative president would, if not a little bit less than like Donald Trump would, for example. So I don't know like what they would have to critique, but we've covered this topic extensively the last 5 episodes or so. Yeah. So if you want to get our full, in-depth, comprehensive take, go ahead and listen to those episodes before you get to the dinner table. But we can cover the basics of what you might see and offer some fair, simple counter arguments you can use to prove yourself intellectually superior.
Exactly. Some sharp, dashing bits of rhetoric you can launch at your opponents.
Yeah. I'd say the first thing to focus on if you've got an especially Zionist uncle is to talk about how disproportionate Israel's response here is and how it's always insanely disproportionate, right? We've seen more than 11,000 Palestinians die at this point, mostly innocent people. I think 60 of them have been confirmed Hamas members.
Oh, it's something low.
If the goal is to out Hamas and to get back at Hamas, it's clearly not working. And a third of people that have died have been children. Obviously, they couldn't have done anything to be at fault for what's happened.
And it's also what's the point of absolutely carpet bombing the surface when we know they have kilometers on kilometers of tunnels like that rival the Viet Congs, and everyone knows how that conflict went.
Yeah, exactly. You could also focus on the fact that Israel / the IDF / Netanyahu has had a hand in funding and promoting Hamas over more peaceful Palestinian political leadership decades ago. Of course, Israel, by continuing apartheid and horrible, unstable conditions, continues to indirectly promote Hamas to this day, because if Palestinians have no hope for a better future, they're going to resort to violence and Hamas gains more political power. But they have previously had a direct hand in ensuring Hamas gains political power. So you can't really say that Israel has tried that hard to get rid of Hamas in the past. It's kind of all their fault.
They actually loved Hamas in the past. Back behind the scenes, they loved to give them money and prop them up so that they could get in front of any growing peace efforts. Another way to tackle it, I think, is just to frame it like, what would you do? Like, if they have children, what would you do if someone came through? Every guy like this has some insane, propensity towards hyper violence and has hyper violent fantasies that they love to project onto their children if anything happens to them. You know what I mean? It's like those fucking dads that are like, when my daughter gets her first boyfriend, I'm gonna sit him down with my fucking gun and make sure he doesn't do anything, because they secretly just fantasize about being able to just do violence against someone, and they love to project that onto protecting someone else, however fucked up that is. Just you use that, honestly. You frame it in a situation. It's like, okay, what if something happened to your family? Maybe they don't love you, but they love other members of the family. What if something happened to them? What would you do? You would want to get them, and you would recognize that, hey, getting them is where it should stop, although I still think that's wrong. You shouldn't go and say burn down their entire neighborhood just for being associated with them.
Yeah,
because it's kind of what we have going on here. If someone wrongs you, you can't go and wrong their entire neighborhood. Anyone who's ever been associated with them, especially say if that neighborhood's a gated community, but not in the traditional sense where only people who live there can get in. It's where only people who live there can't get out. That'd be pretty bad, I think.
It's a reverse gated community.
It's a reverse gated community.
It's an open air prison. I think appealing to people's basic empathy here is probably the right move. This obviously wouldn't work with a Republican politician, because they're all demons detached from their humanity.
Oh yeah,
they are not in touch with their feelings. They are no longer human. But your conservative family member is probably still a human being.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
They probably just have a couple bad opinions.
Yeah.
Because that's so.
Just point out, children are dying. This is obviously not the correct response. It's obviously not even the effective response. And you could also point out, they're doing a similar thing that the United States did after 9/11, and that clearly wasn't effective. I don't think anyone will go to bat for the Iraq War anymore.
Or
the way we handled Afghanistan.
That's what I was about to say. And if they're not some crazy hyper Zionist, right? If they're just I don't know, a regular center right guy, someone who's may have supported Bush in the past, but not anymore. Just tell them, what about the Iraq War? Everyone in America pretty much recognizes that was a disproportionate response. That was a mistake. Hit him on that. How is this any different than the war on terror, just on a smaller scale?
Yeah.
It's all you.
Your family member might have been in the Iraq War, depending on how old they are, right?
That would be crazy.
They may have been in wars of the past, like the Vietnam War, where America did horrible things for really no reason.
And it also didn't work out. People recognize that we shouldn't have done that. Really, the history of conflicts like these is you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have responded that way. Another thing that I would think would be important to bring up, say if they bring out how Hamas has control over Gaza, they're the government in Gaza, that they were elected, 15 years ago?
It was in 2005 or 6. And it wasn't by a majority, it was by a plurality vote.
Yeah, like 18 years ago. Yeah. Elected by a plurality. 40% of Gaza's population is less than 15.
Yep.
40% of the current population hasn't even been alive since Hamas took power.
And, they couldn't have voted for him. Right?
How can you possibly blame 3,000 kids that died, that never even had a chance to get out there and, I don't know, do an election, be a part of an election?
Even if the population was a little bit older in Gaza and say half the population was alive to elect Hamas, say half the population did elect Hamas.
Yeah.
Are we on some Osama bin Laden shit saying that you are accountable for everything your elected leaders do?
I'm saying,
I don't think so.
Or do we recognize, again, the complex sociological machinations that would make oppressed peoples want to rally behind the only leader that could give them a semblance of a fighting chance against a blatant genocidal oppressor?
It's also worthy to note that there haven't been any other elections in Gaza since then.
Stopped.
There hasn't been a chance to elect anybody new. And also at the time, from reports that I've seen, Hamas was much more moderate back then, or at least they moderated their rhetoric a lot more back then than they do compared to everything that's happening now. So all of these factors combined, you can't blame the people of Gaza for what's happening. They are the victims here.
Yeah.
Unequivocally. Yeah. And also, this one might be a bit too cerebral, but you can also use our take. All of our takes, open access. You can use them however you need to. But you could use the take, again, might be a bit too heady, that nobody gets to have an ethno-state, because this kind of shit always happens.
Oh my God.
If you try to enforce an ethno-state, if you try to take part in an ethno-state project, it's always going to result in this kind of insane amount of violence towards marginalized groups, because you're trying to, if not just kick them out of their land, kill all of them.
Yes.
Right.
I would also like to just preface this and pretty much everything else that we're going to talk about here. I think the worst thing that a leftist can do in an interpersonal argument is be smug. And throw around like hoity-toity academic terms. Just whatever you do, avoid that, because as soon as you start throwing out those triggers, you are never going to get your point across. As soon as you start being smug, it is just going to feed into anyone's like preconceived notions of blue-haired leftists, because it's that's strong.
Yeah.
Gamergate has strong cultural imprints.
Yeah, I was gonna bring this up when we got to like the LGBTQ portion of this episode, but I think it's a good point. It's a good idea just for like everything that you could talk about.
Yeah.
It's a good rhetorical strategy to just project confidence. Don't be smug, engage with them. And if you have to, if you ever feel like you don't know what they're trying to get at, or you don't know what your counter argument should be, use the Socratic method. Poke and prod, ask questions, engage in internal critique rather than bringing up views of your own until you recognize the kind of argument that they're trying to make, and then you can impose your axioms, you can impose your ideology, and prove why it's superior.
It's mostly just
stay calm.
Just stay calm, numb it down.
Yeah.
If you're trying to talk about the West Bank, don't drop settler colonialism. I don't think that one's going to do too much for someone
they
who's
need to
like
know
a
what
firm
you're saying
Zionist.
To win.
Start with some motherfucker from Long Island kicked out a Palestinian family and the IDF backed him up.
Yeah.
That's a better place to start with.
Yeah. Before we move on to more arguments you might encounter, I do want to zero in on some news that I thought was really good. And it's just a typical thing you'd find in a good classic Hiddo episode.
That's right.
And
more
I do
beyond parody.
Blew my mind with that one. So we've all seen Israel's insane propaganda, from fake Hamas hospital recordings that were clearly fake to the AI Voldemort images that we've covered. But there's two specific pieces of agitprop that I want to zero in on right now.
And they're good.
Yeah. The first one is Israel claimed that they're preparing for Hamas to launch fentanyl-packed rockets at them. This was initially reported by Breitbart News, which immediately is a hit to credibility.
Absolutely.
Can't trust what you see from Breitbart.
But it's also like, that one's for us.
But it's for us. I think it's hilarious because it's so obviously designed to appeal to like white suburban America and scare them.
100%.
The fent-packed rockets. And it's like obviously this is nonsense. This is not going to happen, but it's designed to appeal to a Western audience.
It couldn't even work. Not even possible.
Because weapons experts have said, like, if you put fentanyl or other drugs into a rocket, it would just be vaporized.
And just, you put anything in a rocket and it's gonna get vaporized. It doesn't even make sense. And also, like, it's for us. Isn't the IDF like responsible for training some like police forces in America?
I have no idea, probably.
Isn't there some shit like that where like police forces have worked with the IDF? Either way, this is the most cop-coded
cultural
thing.
spillover.
This is the most cop-coded thing that the IDF has ever done. Like, that is crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's not where it ends, though. This next one gets even more insane. The second one is the official Israel Twitter account tweeted out that they found an Arabic translated version of Mein Kampf in a children's room in Gaza used by Hamas as a quote-unquote terrorism hub. The copy of Mein Kampf, mind you, is annotated with sticky notes and highlighter and is in pristine condition.
Pristine condition in this room that they like.
So ridiculous.
Oh my God, it's crazy. And it's like, one, how do you know that kid wasn't reading the copy of Mein Kampf and shaking their head? How are they not like, no? Yeah. They're shaking their head reading Mein Kampf in the children's room, looking at the other kids like, this is bad. Mouth like, this is bad.
Yeah.
I don't like this at all. No.
It's just so funny. Like, this is so obviously fake. Like, it's the type of shit that we would make up to make fun of Israel.
Absolutely.
Like, oh, we just had to bomb this family home because we found a copy of Mein Kampf in their house.
I don't even think I could have made that one up. And I don't even think I can make up a situation that's like worse than that. To do hyperbole, because it's like as worse as it gets. Hamas is using a children's room as a hub for terrorism. Come on, brother.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. First, right, they're implicitly implying that this justifies them bombing places where children obviously are going to be, because it could be Hamas HQ.
Yeah,
you don't know,
of course.
And then two, it implies that Hamas, those dudes are just like actual Nazis, right? As if Mein Kampf is this all-inclusive guide to anti-Semitism. I promise. Hitler didn't think very highly of Arabs. I promise he did not think that Muslims were very good either.
And it's also like, what do they think? This person just completely in perfect Arabic annotated and highlighted this copy of Mein Kampf. What are they, liberals now? What are we doing here? What are we doing here?
We got a fucking academic in Gaza.
They're studying this copy of Mein Kampf. Come on, man.
It's just so ridiculous. Like, Mein Kampf is very Germany centered.
Yeah.
You know, like it's not talking about anywhere else it's very like Aryan race Germany centered. The idea that they want us to believe that some Hamas dude is just, or a child was just reading Mein Kampf.
Well, or some Hamas guy was storing it in a fake children's room just so that there was plausible deniability, you know? Just like how that one Hamas guy got on the phone with some other dude and was like, yeah, I can take literally any ambulance that I want to go and transport these weapons.
It's so ridiculous. So if you encounter any arguments trying to establish legitimacy for the assault on Gaza from the state of by the state of Israel, you can just point to these propaganda pieces. It's so much fucking like I'm never going to believe that this is a real thing.
And it's also it could be real. It could be 100%. I still would not believe you. This is fucking insane. Like it is way beyond reality. Life is better than art, honestly. Oh my God, man.
Yeah, I don't know if I could have came up with something like that. It's just so ridiculous. Like, has Israel never done propaganda before?
And it's like, yeah,
they're so bad at it.
Whoever they got behind that Twitter account, insane. Got to be just absolutely batshit crazy. Oh my goodness, dude. We could do better propaganda.
Yeah,
we could.
Hamas is going to launch Fent rockets at us, and they're reading Mein Kampf in children's rooms.
That's right.
So we have to respond.
They're also probably going to traffic those Fent rockets to the southern border when they come under the border tunnels that semi trucks can get through.
Oh my! Well, they have experience building tunnels. So.
It's just Hamas built the tunnels under the southern border.
It's just all lumped into one narrative. It's almost perfect. It's a really good storytelling. Anyways, IDF propaganda is really bad. They're not very good at this. I don't know if you'll see any. I mean, Gage seems convinced that you might see some IDF propaganda at the dinner table. I don't know. We'll see.
Maybe not the IDF propaganda, but I do think that if you're in a family where you've got like some political people, that shit's coming up. That shit's 100% coming up.
You know, I could see them bring up in relation to immigration that like, yeah, now Hamas guys are coming in.
Oh, that'd be hilarious.
I could see like a misguided, stupid conservative uncle or grandmother or something bring something like that up, because that's like directly in line with all the conservative narratives that already exist.
But you don't think that the conflict in general, people aren't going to talk about it?
I just feel like, I mean, maybe it just seems so hard to me to argue about something like that when it's like, dog, kids are dying. You know what I mean? But I guess there's tons of American conservatives that think Israel's right.
People are so far just removed from the conflict that they can talk about it. Baby's Hitto's first disagreement right here.
This is the first of many riffs to come.
That's right. I'm in this episode right now, I'm standing on business with this one. Sound off in the comments.
Yeah, I can't fucking be here anymore. First disagreement, I'm out of here. Moving on. I think we should talk about LGBTQ issues.
Probably one of the next biggest issues of this year.
Yeah. We have seen a little bit less of it recently since the start of this attack in October from, the start of when Hamas did the terrorist attack and then Israel responded with, massacring a bunch of innocent people.
Yeah, the only thing I've really heard about, I guess, LGBT issues outside of the stuff that we've covered are conservatives commenting under gay people's posts in support of Palestine, not Hamas, in support of the Palestinian people saying, wow, why don't you go over there then? Why don't you go over there, see how they like you?
Hamas is actually pretty homophobic. Thanks so much. That's so
You're
helpful.
adding a lot to the conversation, buddy.
Yeah. So it's been a while since we've talked about this kind of thing, but homophobia, transphobia, etc. is something that is alive and well in conservative ideology, especially conservative ideologies in the United States.
Oh, yeah.
So imagine you're at the Thanksgiving dinner table.
Okay.
And you have a conservative family member that hits you with, the left doesn't even know what a woman is.
Oh, that's a good one.
How do you respond?
How do I respond personally? Yeah, I think a great way to respond is a way that I've seen this week. I saw a video this week of someone confronting Ben Shapiro at a college campus. Usually, I think those are wholly unproductive.
It's a bad idea.
And you're not going to get anything. You're not going to say anything novel. But I think that this person did. I can't remember their name, but essentially what they did is they got on that stage and they asked Ben Shapiro. They said, the definition of what a mother is has been expanded throughout history to include adoptive mothers. And basically asking if they accept that definition or not. Do you accept that definition, Aaron?
Yeah, you kind of have to.
They're
mothers still, right?
Because no one in their right mind would go out there and if someone is referring to an adoptive mom as a mom, would say, no.
Yeah.
That's not your biological mom. And this way of framing the conversation still leaves room to include biological mothers and adoptive mothers under the umbrella category that is a mother.
Yeah.
We all recognize this. Society recognizes this. We recognize that the definition has shifted and expanded to include this new category of a mother who isn't the same as a biological mother but fulfills the social role of mother. Why can't we do that for a trans person?
Exactly. Yeah.
Why do we have to sit there and hide behind the bioessentialism that is no. Yeah. You can't be a woman unless you have girl. You're not a girl unless you have girl parts.
Well, yeah, and the idea here is if we can take words like mother and change them over time, and if they clearly mean something beyond just literally giving birth, and we apply that logic to woman, an idea that is also socially changed over time, then why can't we be inclusive of the people included in this group?
Exactly, and that way of framing it provides right there in the question that there's historical precedence for a shift like this.
Yes.
So why can't there be another shift right now? But by accepting a trans person or a trans woman, for example, under the general umbrella category that is womanhood, you are not degrading biological women. It's just they coexist. Cis women and trans women can coexist both as women. People recognize, everyone recognizes that they are different categories.
Yeah.
Just like they do for adoptive mothers and biological mothers. An adoptive mother does not degrade a biological mother simply by existing. Yeah, That's not how that works.
Well, I mean, importantly, it's an adjective, right? Like there's tall women, there's short women,
exactly.
They're both women. There's cis women, there's trans women, they're both women. It's just the descriptor word that goes in front of woman that describes what kind of woman it is. You know what I mean? Like it's really no different. But if
you're also not walking around going to adopt, you're being, no, you're not a mom, you're an adoptive mom.
Yeah, nobody does that.
No, you adopted that child.
If you find yourself in this situation, especially this applies to everything, but if you're a member of the LGBTQ or if you're even a trans person and you find yourself in this situation, don't feel the need to engage, right? This applies to everything else we'll talk about. If you feel like emotionally or personally at risk when you're talking about these topics, you don't ever have to engage in the argument.
Oh yeah, of course not. This is just for the love of the game.
This is if you want to fight, and we encourage fighting. If you want to do it, go for it, right? So if you find yourself in this situation, stay calm, and this is one of those that I really encourage you to engage in the Socratic method, right? Because the simple argument from us is always going to be that a woman is someone who identifies with a woman.
Always.
It's the self-ID model, and there are people that are going to argue that it's circular and therefore nonsensical. But gender as a concept itself is nonsensical because it refers to all of these social expectations and behaviors that are very tenuously, if at all, associated with your actual sex characteristics. And our idea is that, and obviously we didn't come up with this, but the self-ID model is the only one that's actually going to include in the category woman everyone that should be included in the category woman. Because if you refer to chromosomes or gametes or sex organs or anything else, the list goes on, you're going to end up with a definition of a category that excludes somebody, right? Because if your definition is a woman is people with XX chromosomes, anyone without XX chromosomes is a man, what about women with one X chromosome or three, or women with X and Y, but you would identify them as a woman, right? You're never going to find a definition of the word woman that doesn't exclude somebody unless you allow it to be a category that people opt into, much like American, right? Yeah. Like, is being an American just being a U.S. citizen, or is there something more social and cultural that we associate with the idea of American that you have to opt into? It's really that simple. We do this with all kinds of other things. Religion. How do you know when somebody's a whore, for example? Like what biological basis is there behind a word like that? No, you opt into it, right? It's a set of social roles and expectations that we associate with a word that have changed dramatically over time, and we shouldn't be exclusive just to call out one group individually.
And it's also, this is always going to devolve into the, well, you're just denying biology. You're literally not denying biology. As someone with a biochemistry degree who's taken extensive biology coursework, who knows biologists, no biologist worth their salt is going to get out, worth their weight in salt is going to get out there and say that trans women, that they're absolutely getting out there and denying biology. Any modern correct biology textbook is going to make the distinction between gender as a social category, as a sociological phenomenon, and sex. And even when they're making that distinction, they will make sure to highlight how sex is not just XX and XY. There are more chromosome combinations that are possible than that. Like Jeremy mentioned, some people have XXY. Some people have different combinations of chromosomes. I think there's like 5 of them. Just because they're more rare doesn't mean that they are getting out here and that they're exceptions to the rule. They happen, and they should be recognized as happening. I think there's a famous track athlete. She was a girl who ran, and she was really fucking good. And she was so good, this is way in like the 50s or something, that they tested her testosterone levels. They came back high, and it turned out she had undescended testes. Like, that's it. She had, like, everything. She was assigned female at birth. She had female sex organs. She just also happened to have undescended testicles. What do you do in that situation if you're taking gender as this rigid binary? Because then it's like, by all accounts of the word, all accounts of your definition, that's a girl. Yeah. You interact with her as a girl. But then you're going to back this out once you find out that one piece of information that you really shouldn't have been privy to anyway and say, oh, no, that's a fucking dude. Yeah. Nah, boy. Well,
yeah, and that's the other thing is, like, beyond the self-ID model, beyond biology itself, how the fuck am I going to know what your gender is unless you tell me, right? Exactly. Like, am I going to check? Am I going to, like, run tests on every person I meet so I know what pronouns to use for them because I have this rigid concept of what gender is supposed to be? No, I'm going to call you whatever you want me to call you.
Even people that try to do that are like always wrong. Like, people who try to launch these transvestigations, they always do it against like these celebrities. They're just wrong every single time, because it's not like that. Like, you can't go around and be like, oh yeah, this is a distinctly male eyebrow ridge, therefore they must have had transition surgery very early into life to get rid of this to appear as such a woman. Or, you know, some people are just women, and women look different, and men also look different from other men, and there aren't these super hyper rigid characteristics that they have to fit into to have been these.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's faulty to think so.
And importantly, right, when we're talking about all of this, it limits the scope of human freedom to just stick us into these binary categories. Every scientist on the planet knows that the world is so much more interesting than how you can define it. Yeah. There's so much more going on than categories we can ever build to describe the things that are going on. So why not just let people be who they want to be? Let's maximize freedom and recognize them as who they say that they are. Because it's that simple.
We're pro-freedom, and they're not. But, I mean, if we want to talk about this, I guess we're going to have to go into the next bit of the argument. Well, adults can do whatever they want, but what about little kids? What about all these little kids that are that want to have these bottom surgeries at age 5?
Yeah, that's an argument you'll see basically all the time. When it comes to gender-affirming care, it's important to note that it's a very rare thing for children, or gender affirming care itself is a rare thing for an individual of any age group to ever engage in, right? Trans people, 1% of the U.S. population. We're talking about a very small, select group of people, but still a notable group of people, right? We want to allow for access to all healthcare methods to everybody that needs them. But when we're talking about gender affirming care, especially in children, we know statistically that it saves lives by lowering suicidality rates. And importantly, gender affirming care for kids is usually never surgical or biological.
Yes.
There's very few cases where it ever is, and they're usually close to 18 anyways. But for the vast majority of the already small group that engages in gender affirming care before they're 18, it's usually just therapy and behavioral assistance to make them more comfortable in who they actually are. And even then, there's an incredibly low regret rate for people that engage in gender affirming care as minors, and people that usually, and commonly people that do desist or detransition, as right wingers like to imply, it's often because of social ridicule or they don't have the funding to continue it. It's usually never because they regret what they're doing or they were indoctrinated into it.
Or of the people who genuinely detransition because they realize that it just wasn't for them. That's also like their choice too, and they don't regret it. They don't say, I was pressured into this. They don't get out there and do the grifter thing like the 3 people Matt Walsh was able to find. They just think, oh yeah, I did this. I thought that was me. It wasn't me. That's okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, that's how that is.
And importantly, right-wingers will be like, okay, that's all fine, but it's being pushed upon children today. It's not.
No.
It's legitimately not. You may be able to, in a country of 350
million.
Yeah, 350 million people, you could find a teacher that's like, I'm going to tell kids that they're trans. But for the vast majority of teachers and people in this country, they are just saying that if you are trans, if you feel like you want to go by she, her rather than he, him, I'm going to respect that and I'll try to get you the help that you need. And it's as simple as that.
If, God forbid, the person you're arguing with is a Matt Walsh fan, and they've seen What is a Woman?
Jail time. Jail time.
Maybe disengage in general. But if they're engaging with or ushering forth Matt Walsh adjacent rhetoric by saying, oh, what about the medical transition industry? All you need to do is get out there and say literally every medical industry is for profit. There is a profit incentive behind hip replacements, which have a higher regret rate than transition surgeries, fucking hip replacements, knee replacements, organ transplants. Literally every medical procedure in this country will make money for somebody. There's a financial incentive to push all of those things. It is not unique to transition care. And if it is being pushed maliciously, it is not more unique to transition care or more malicious to gender affirming care than it is for hip replacements and knee replacements. Like, let's think.
And like, unironic, a funny thing that I've been seeing conservatives do lately is be like trying to fearmonger about trans people and using gender affirming care, engaging in trans surgery, stuff like that, transition surgeries. And then they'll just show images of like a trans person happy with themselves.
I know you're talking about the PragerU documentary, right?
Yeah, like unironically, I feel like that's a point for our side if they're just showing videos of like trans people saying like, yeah, I'm happier than I've ever been. I feel more comfortable in my own skin than ever before in my life. I feel like that's 1 point for the left on that one.
Because it's like they think it's some dystopian thing, but it's like you're looking at a person engaging in joy and saying, no, this is wrong.
Yeah, someone's like, I feel actually very comfortable with who I am now. I'm in a loving relationship and I have great relationships with my family now that I understand who I am and I can live who I am.
It is so funny because it's a PragerU documentary about detransitioning. One of the detransitioners that they fucking found, one of like the couple that want to do that and then grift for the anti-trans movement, was somebody who went through conversion therapy.
Yeah.
And then detransitioned because of the conversion therapy. And like
dog, you're a victim.
Dog,
you're a victim.
You want to talk about grooming and manipulation here? Let's talk about it.
Yeah, and if they really want to hammer home your family members about like the detransitioners, and because if they watch Fox News a bunch, they see detransitioners all the time, and they may think that they represent a larger portion of the LGBTQ community than they really do. All you really got to say is like, we can't, like, to the extent that there are people who legitimately regret doing some form of gender affirming care, you can't stop people from making all mistakes ever, right?
Yeah.
We know that gender affirming care, the model that we have in this country, works really well. There's a really low regret rate. But for those that do regret it, like, that sucks, but like that's just par for the course when it comes to medicine in general.
Yeah, and like I said, some people genuinely, they do it, they regret it, and then they go back and they get on with their lives and like, that wasn't for me.
Yeah. And they're valid too, but it's
Yeah.
like they are a very small portion of an already small portion of the population.
God damn, it's crazy. And it's like just speaking to the whole idea that this all boils down to, if a kid sees someone being gay, they're going to be gay. Nobody thinks about kids engaging in nefarious sexual acts more than libertarians and these anti-gay conservatives. Like, I swear to God. Yeah. I swear to God.
Yeah, it's a crazy obsession. I guess we could move on to the homophobic news real quick.
Yes. It's been kind of a minute.
Transphobia is the big one that you'll encounter when talking about LGBTQ topics. But you may catch a stray homophobic uncle come through with like, you know what, gay people should not be allowed to be married.
Oh shit, a Ken Paxton type uncle who gets on there and sodomy laws, put him back on the book.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot less common nowadays, which is a good thing. But you still might encounter it. Obviously, the easy debunk argument there is just that, like, I'm pro-freedom. I want everyone to have access to the same stuff. No reason we should discriminate, even if that's what your book tells you that you study, your religious text.
But that's a whole nother. If you're engaging someone who's taking this wholly on the back of that's what the Bible says or that's what my religious text says, you ought to just fucking disengage with that conversation.
It's not logical at that point.
Unless you're doing this to, I don't know, sharpen your rhetorical ability, there's no way you're gonna get good faith engagement out of them.
Yeah, no, you can't. Right? Yeah, we're in like the we're in the fanfic realm. We're operating in La La Land. None of it's real at that point. If we're trying to have logical conversations about what's right in society. But to build off the homophobic arguments, I do have a piece of news that we can run through.
Okay.
This is a very standard Hiddo kind of story. When I saw this story,
there's a lot of them going on.
When I saw the story, I thought this is really just like perfect 2022 Hiddo right here.
Yeah, it's certified Hiddo class.
Everything that we do. So, Tennessee. Okay. Tennessee is a state that is not known for its progressive politics, to say the least. Well, in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, a city of about 150,000, the city council recently passed an ordinance in June of this year that bans, quote, indecent behavior in public and, quote, indecent materials in places like public libraries. You can see where I'm going with this. You can imagine exactly what they're trying to do here.
I wonder.
Now, this ordinance that they passed linked back to an old sexual conduct clause from the 70s in their city laws that says, and I quote,
okay,
sexual conduct means the acts of masturbation, homosexuality, sexual intercourse, or physical contact with a person's clothed or unclothed genitals. To be clear, this law explicitly says that being gay in public is inherently sexual and therefore wrong according to the city's laws. Like, there's no real ambiguous nature here. It's exactly what it says.
And it's like, let's be real. How do you define being gay in public? Because I'm sure the people who wrote this law had a very different idea of what being gay in public was. Is wearing women's clothing gay? Is going out and, like, I don't know, hugging your bro gay?
Yeah.
Like, the gay accusations are going to start flying left and right.
So, city officials in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, recently used the June ordinance that was kind of passed under the noses of everybody. Nobody really talked about it until now because they started using it. But they recently used the June ordinance and the older law that I just referenced to ban a bunch of LGBTQ plus books from the public library. This was a couple weeks back. And to be clear, the city council said no indecent materials, defined indecent as being gay, and then banned LGBTQ books, right? Like, this completely unambiguous action here.
What the fuck?
Fortunately, though, this ordinance was amended. Being gay was removed from what's considered illegal public sexual conduct. But this is right. Like, that's the standard. This is only after immense pressure from groups like the ACLU and other organizations that are like, hey, yo, this is crazy.
Like, you cannot do this.
Yeah. But under the June ordinance, the city council can still argue that LGBTQ plus books are indecent. So they just reestablished the euphemism, right?
Like, obviously, this is all just to target LGBTQ people.
Yes.
But wouldn't this necessarily also mean you can't depict sexual intercourse in any way, shape, or form?
Yeah, see, that's what you would think, but I think the point you brought up initially is that it's just to target LGBTQ people.
Yeah, but right? maybe we could get some malicious compliance
just
going on and get anything with sex in it just removed.
Right, I mean, but it's like sodomy laws technically banned blowjobs, but you're never going to see a straight person going to jail over committing sodomy. Yeah. They're only designed to target the minority group, but they have to have the guise of being equally applied, otherwise it's clearly authoritarian.
It's like, how embarrassing that this was a city council.
Yes,
your city council tried to just slip this through. Yeah, like who is representing y'all?
And that's why I started off by saying like Tennessee's already not a progressive state, but to just blatantly engage in banning books using a law from the 70s that says being gay is explicitly sexual, and then banning LGBTQ books using that as the justification is especially dystopian.
And it's like, is this popular?
I don't know.
Popular even amongst conservatives? I know you have those like conservative, gays against groomers, the gay conservative grifters that get on there and like say, oh yeah, I totally agree. I'll just do everything ever in private. But like, is this actually popular with the general American public? I think it's hard to tell.
I think on their face, like, book bans are obviously, again, Nazi particles. It's like the feature of this episode, Nazi particles, Hitler particles.
Hitler particles.
Book bans themselves, I don't think are popular. Again, this is happening through, like, the free speech crowd, conservatives. Yeah. But I don't know. They seem like the conservative conquest in the mainstream has been against LGBTQ people subtly beforehand, but now explicitly for quite a while. I don't know that it matters if this sells over with conservative voters, because I don't think they're going to do anything to like oust their conservative city council members. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. I just wonder if Roe v. Wade wasn't overturned, how would this type of rhetoric have panned out in the 2023 midterms, 22 midterms, and like the 23 special elections and off-year elections? You know what I mean? Like, what? I just wonder like what that would have done.
That's a good question, because in a lot of ways, Dobbs kind of saved Joe Biden's ass. You know what I mean? And Democrats largely, because giving the Democrats abortion to run on was a very helpful thing for them, because abortion's popular. If you just give Democrats this free issue to run on to compare themselves and make themselves seem better than you, obviously it's going to help them quite a bit. But without that, I don't know. What do you think their main thing would just be like, I hate trans people? That's like, their main platform?
I feel like they can't. Yeah. Because we know we've covered so many times that the trans rhetoric that they engage in and that they pass laws against is not popular. The only thing that conservatives have, like when people are polled by like some 538 or political cult, like a trusted poll, is the sports thing. That's all that they got. Obviously, we disagree. You guys know that we all disagree on that, but I guess I can see where people are coming from culturally.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, okay, sure, whatever. That's the one thing they have. I'd be remiss to say that I think that they could successfully run campaigns based off of that issue, because the trans stuff was the thing that they were going
2022.
With. They were leaning in hard.
Is that and pro-life shit?
Yeah.
And it lost them the election.
Insane. So I just can't help but wonder if Dobbs wouldn't have happened, like how that would have panned out.
It may just also prove our hypothesis that like national level, a lot of people are grifting. Local level, that's
they
where you
fucking
see
believe
the real
shit.
insane true believers that really just are invested in all the insane shit that conservatives do on the national level.
And this is why local elections matter.
Yes, right? Because like you'll get like your average run of the mill Democrat on the school board or something, and they'll just kind of continue the status quo. But if you like a conservative. I mean, they literally believe that Trump is Jesus Christ and that gay people are just indoctrinating children or whatever.
It's crazy, man. It is crazy. That's quite the story coming out of Tennessee.
Yeah. Tennessee, what are you doing? Get it together. Tennessee's bad track record overall.
Get your shit together.
Moving on.
Tennessee did vote for abortion, right? Special in one of the elections.
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Was Tennessee the one that had the confusing?
I think that was Kansas.
Kansas. It's so crazy.
Either way, once it makes its way to Tennessee, I don't think we'll be proven wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Abortion's popular.
If it did make its way to Tennessee, it won because it's won literally every time. And if it does make its way, it'll probably win because it's won literally every time.
A prominent topic you'll probably hear your conservative family members talk about at the dinner table is immigration.
Oh, yeah.
This is a certified GOP conservative classic, and it's also one, thankfully, that's very easy to debunk.
So, God, I hope for your sake they bring up Fent.
Oh, yeah.
I hope they talk about Fent, and I hope you come to the Discord and talk about it so I can hear all the fun Fent discourse.
And then you can be like, yeah, I put Fent in the potatoes. You know what I'm saying?
That's not salt.
And you're fine.
That's Fent.
And you're fine. But yeah, this is a GOP classic. They usually say something along the lines of like, there's millions flooding into our countries, which of course, which of course isn't true. I think Border Patrol last year, 2022, caught 2 million people total, but that just means they caught them, not that they came into the country.
Yeah.
They caught like 2.2 million illegal border crossings, but that means they sent them back, not that they just let them come all the way through.
And it's like, I don't know. I highly doubt that way more than that are actually getting past border control.
Of course.
Especially when we have fucking draconian methods over in places like Texas with buzzsaw buoys. Great episode. I would suggest you go listen to that one to find out about that. But yeah, I doubt millions are flooding in and border control is catching only a tiny fraction of them.
Yeah. Also, even less people make it through on work visas, for example. And speaking of work visas, this is the most common type of quote-unquote illegal immigration, is simply overstaying a visa, whether intentionally or unintentionally. This is the most common. I think it makes up like 60% or 50% of all reasons for illegal immigration. It's just you're overstaying a visa, meaning they came in legally and went through all the customs that they were supposed to get into the country, background check, etc., to be here.
And God, if they do bring
it's
up
not like
they're
a criminal.
If they do bring up fent, you gotta hit them with it. That shit flows through at regular ports of entry.
Yes.
You gotta hit them with the now classic Univision at the Fox News second debates question of half of it comes from American citizens coming through regular ports of entry. Like there are so many ways to tackle the drug cartel one, because fent is the new MS-13, folks.
Yeah, I mean, and you can always concede like, drug trafficking is an issue, of course.
Yeah, I don't want that here.
A lot of Americans are hooked on drugs. If you want to, you can even get into the addiction is a disease. We should treat it as a disease. Material conditions motivate certain addictions, that kind of thing. But if you want to just stick on the drug trafficking issue, again, drugs, especially fentanyl, are brought in through regular ports of entry, and stomping down on the southern border disproportionately won't do anything to stop drugs actually coming in. It's just motivated by racism. That's really all it is.
Yes.
Also, you can always bring up that immigration statistically is a net positive for the U.S. economy. Immigrants usually help the economy far more than they are purported to hurt it.
They quite literally can't take out of the
They're
system
not citizens.
in the regular means that regular U.S. poor people can take out in the forms of red states in the forms of welfare, SNAP, WIC benefits. Even they don't get any of that. They can't collect unemployment. If they're here illegally, they can't vote. They can't collect unemployment. They can't get SNAP benefits. They can't get any of the resources that we give to poor people in this country to try and maybe help them out.
Yeah. And importantly, immigrants tend to take a lot of low-paying jobs that U.S. citizens don't want to take anyways.
Yeah.
Now, there's something to be said that that's an exploitative circumstance. It's an exploitative relationship, and I certainly think that's true. But to the extent that immigrants themselves are hurting the U.S. economy, it's just not the case. In fact, more people here means more people to feed, which means more consumerism, and it helps the economy as a whole.
Yeah.
Right now, it's just not the case that immigration hurts the U.S. economy. It is a good thing. There's a leftist critique that we need to treat immigrants better, and I certainly agree with that. But from the right-wing perspective, immigration is just a net positive for the U.S.
Oh, yes.
Simple as that.
Oh, yes.
We benefit from having more people here.
Yeah.
And you know what? On some lib shit, America was built by immigrants.
Yeah.
You know?
Economists agree that it's just better for everybody.
Moving on to abortion?
I think so. Moving on to the hottest electoral issue of the last year and a half.
Yeah, the hottest electoral issue, again, probably won the Democrats 2022. And an issue that hasn't, I guess it's been like pretty consistently talked about the last year or so.
It's been pretty consistently talked about. The GOP is finally, after a year of mistakes, like moving away from the national abortion
trying to moderate
rhetoric,
themselves, yeah.
Because when Dobbs happened, they could not help themselves. They got right into saying the most heinous shit.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah. I feel like this is one of the issues along with immigration that's almost guaranteed for someone to yap about at Thanksgiving. Like abortion and immigration are like the two things in the GOP culture war section of American politics that is just always talked about is these two things. And usually it'll be talked about like how abortion is murder, and that's what they try to zero in on. Let's do it. Let's say it like this.
Okay.
If you're at the Thanksgiving dinner table, imagine yourself, you, Gage Cosmonaut,
that's me,
at the Thanksgiving dinner table, and your conservative family member says, Gage, abortion, it's murder.
Oh,
how do you respond?
Really? Is it?
Yeah.
Is it now?
They look you dead in the eyes and they say abortion's murder.
They lock me down. They just hands on the table, fist.
Yeah.
Comes down right there, pounding.
Yeah.
All the silverware rattles.
They're like,
abortion is murder.
They look at you. In fact, they one up this. They say, you're angry that kids are dying in Gaza. Why aren't you angry about kids being aborted in the United States? Go. What's your answer?
Well, I would say I would start right off the bat that if you truly do think that abortion is murder and you want to do things that would reduce murder overall and abortions, you would advocate for better access to contraceptives, better sex education for kids so that they understand when bad things are happening to them and how to get out of these situations. Because those two things, when kids understand sex, how to navigate sexual situations, and are generally educated and have access to contraceptives so that they can stop themselves from getting pregnant, you'll have less abortions. Because the majority of abortions happen because people don't have a good economic outlook. They realize whoa, the math is not adding up here. I don't have the bread to be able to support a kid. I frankly can't do this right now. Or I can't afford contraceptive. I can't afford to do all this, but people are gonna fuck anyway. That's never something you can take off the table, because that's one of the things they're gonna hit you with, right back to, well, they shouldn't be having sex. If they're gonna engage in sex, they should be ready for the consequences. Or let's just use contraceptive.
Or maybe we can make it easier for people to do what they're going to do anyway.
Exactly.
And not get pregnant and therefore not have to murder a child, as you think.
In the history of human existence, you have literally never been able to stop people from having sex.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen if we are to continue.
It's a fact of nature. It's just a reality of the world that we live in. Also, I would say I don't really know that you can convince somebody that abortion isn't murder if they believe it's murder, because it's usually more of a philosophical issue a philosophical thing that they're going to take issue with. So it's probably just best to focus, in my opinion, on bodily autonomy, that part of the equation. And it's simple, really. Our argument, we've repeated it thousands of times at this point. The government shouldn't be allowed to tell you shouldn't be able to tell you what to do with your body's biological resources. And I've yet to hear a convincing argument from a conservative to refute this idea that isn't just pro-authoritarianism.
Because if you were in a car crash and you were at fault for that car crash, the person that you functionally put in a very bad circumstances in the hospital, and they need, they need your kidney to survive. Should you have to give up that kidney even though it was a result of your actions?
Yeah.
They need the kidney. They only had one before the car crash. You got them. You wrecked their one kidney they had. Can the state say you have to give up this kidney because this is what you did?
Yeah. We do not allow any government, not for punishment of a crime or otherwise, to use your organs in a way that you don't consent to.
Yeah.
Pregnancy should not be any different. I don't see any reason to discriminate on the basis of pregnancy. And if a government anywhere in the world does this, uses your organs uses the organs of its citizens in ways that they don't consent to, then we would call it immoral, because it would be. And again, pregnancy should not be any different. Even if you caused it intentionally, the government should not be able to tell you what to do about it.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
And God, even if they want to talk about these 6 week, these heartbeat bills, a heartbeat, that's a virtue signal. At 6 weeks, there is no heart. There's a little bit of electrical activity, so a pacemaker activity. There's not a beating heart going on. And besides, there are plenty of situations that we as a society accept to kill someone, for lack of a better term, despite their heart still beating, like a brain dead patient in a vegetative state laying on a hospital bed. We think it's fully fine to pull the plug on them because we recognize there's no coming back here.
Yeah.
And this is also beside the fact that it's I cannot say that that small clump of cells, because we're all clumps of cells, as they like to say, that small clumps of cells has a conscience and can really be encroached upon and experience that harm.
If they really want to argue, if you want to argue that on the it's literally murder point, this is a person, my hair has human DNA. Did I just murder a bunch of parts of myself when I got a haircut
my
a few days ago?
stem cells have the potential to be differentiated into a germ line. Come on.
Tons of things have human DNA that we don't treat, or that we wouldn't treat to the same extent that they want us to treat a clump of human cells at the beginning of a pregnancy.
Just because the germ line even has the potential to differentiate into a fully actualized human being as we understand it and as we interact with them, doesn't mean that it should be allocated personhood.
Yeah.
And that's for the philosophy nerds out there.
And it can never supersede bodily autonomy. That is the basis of freedom in society is that you have a choice as to what you would do with your own body's resources, what you'll do with your own body. It's the reason that we allow people to get tattoos. It's the reason we allow them to do whatever they want with their body. It's because we don't want a government, because we recognize it'd be authoritarianism, we wouldn't want a government to infringe upon those rights. Like that, it's the basis for freedom in our society.
And this is beside the fact that first trimester abortions, 93% of them.
Yes.
Second trimester abortions, 6%. And that's already like a crazy fucking fall off for the second trimester. Third trimester, less than 1%, almost in every circumstance for the purpose of saving the mother, for life of the mother, or the baby's already dead, or say maybe like just things are going wrong and it's not a viable pregnancy. Third trimester abortions functionally don't happen because someone just said, I'm not with this anymore. I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah. And it's like when a third trimester abortion does happen, it's just like, again, it's out of necessity. And those people usually plan to have that child. It's already a traumatic experience. Why would we muddy the works with more red tape that I thought conservatives were supposed to hate?
I'm saying
government red tape.
Fucking bureaucracy. I thought doctors should be doctors. What's going on?
So if you encounter any abortion arguments, I hope that that gets you through it.
Hopefully.
And, sometimes I'll see people like Ben Shapiro say like, oh, personhood is something we've already found a conclusion for. We know what the answer is. We know when personhood begins. No, the fuck we don't.
Yeah,
this
the fuck?
Is like one of the biggest philosophical questions we've been asking for hundreds of years.
I don't even
There's no answer.
Like, I wasn't conscious until I was like 3 years old. Like, come on now.
Like, you're going to tell me that personhood's been figured out? We know when a person is a person? Of course we don't. Of course not.
That's so good. Love Ben Shapiro.
Moving on to, I think, our last holiday pregame topic.
Yes.
Trump and Biden.
Big one. Trump versus Biden. Again, last Thanksgiving holiday pregame before the general. The next one's going to come right after, and boy, are we going to have, boy, is that going to be a discussion, but we'll save that for this time next year.
Yeah, you will definitely get some kind of, like, if you're going to engage in politics to any extent, right, regardless of the specific topics we have covered, engaging in politics at all will undeniably net you at least one comment from a conservative family member that things were better under Donald Trump.
Bidenomics in any way, shape, or form.
Whether they're talking about the economy or other social issues, they will say things were better under Donald Trump. And focusing on economic issues first, of course, a lot of Trump's quote-unquote good economy just rode on the coattails of Obama's economic recovery. And to the extent that the economy was better than it was today, it was fucked up because of Trump's pandemic response. And like, sure, the economy was going to be hurt anyway. A pandemic's bad for the global economy.
Yeah, I don't argue that, but he could have handled it better. He could have done things better.
He could have handled it better. And if it was inevitable anyway, I don't see how you can blame Joe Biden for it. Someone who took office after the pandemic had already begun.
And it's also the fact that there are a myriad of things that Trump did before the pandemic happened that functioned to worsen the economic effects of what COVID, a international pandemic, was going to do to the economy. We can get into it. One of the biggest things he did was cut taxes for the rich, which never helps the economy long term. But wait, head in the office, Jeremy and Gage. What about the tax cuts for the middle class? What about my tax cuts? Well, those, I regret to inform you, all go away in 2025. They are set to sunset in 2 years unless some administration decides to put an extension in. But you know what was set to stay? The tax cuts for the rich. Most importantly, the tax cuts for not you or me. The tax cuts for people that we will never have the disprivilege of interacting with. And the tax cuts for corporations, who were the real winners when they got a 14% reduction in their tax rate from 35% to 21%.
That's a crazy drop.
That's a nutty cut. Like, damn near, it's not like 50%, damn near like 40% cut. What the fuck? In taxes they barely pay anyway?
And keep in mind, Joe Biden was the one, and Democrats were the ones to vote for a minimum corporate tax rate of 15% flat. So if you're just focusing in on the one topic of corporations paying their fair share after profiting immensely during the pandemic and off the back of the working class, Democrats and Joe Biden got it better than Trump do.
Absolutely.
On that one topic at the very least.
100%.
Undeniably.
Huge topic, too. That's about you and me, baby. Come on. What's going on?
That's about funding Social Security that your old conservative family member probably benefits from.
That they need. Literally need. And either way, if whoever you're arguing with is a, say, deficit nerd, you better make sure to mention how these tax cuts had a large hand in creating Trump's already record pre-COVID deficit, despite promises that the economic growth that never actually panned out from the Tax Cuts and Job Act would be able to pay down the deficit. One of his biggest campaign promises. Bro campaigned on making Mexico pay for a border wall and cutting down the deficit because he's a businessman. We need a businessman in office, even though this is pretty much how he ran his businesses, as we're finding out anyway. But that's a conversation for another time. Another cornerstone of Trump's economic policy was his trade war with China and the blowback that caused. Hell yeah, brother. I mean, if we're arguing with conservatives, I gotta play to my audience.
Exactly, yeah.
You know, and I expect you all to as well. A 2019 study by Moody Analytics estimated that the trade war Trump claimed would be easily won and bring in revenue to pay down the deficit ended up costing 300,000 jobs and 0.3% of real GDP conservatively. Other sources estimate it brought down, it costed about 0.7% of GDP.
Okay.
To put this in context, I couldn't find exactly what it was, but we covered some recessionary things that happened in 2020, right?
Okay.
After the IRA and Build Back Better and all of that shit that happened. And the accusations levied at Biden were that he cut the real GDP growth by 0.1%. Here Trump is, 0.3 conservatively. That's a pretty bad thing that goes on. Research from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York and Columbia University estimated that U.S. companies lost $1.7 trillion from the fall in their stocks as a result of tariffs against China, tariffs which the Brookings Institute estimates U.S. companies paid for, not necessarily China.
What a surprise.
And you know when U.S. companies pay for things, they don't pay shit. We do.
Yeah.
It's always
They socialize their losses.
Because U.S. corporations accepted lower profit margins. American workers, in terms, had to accept cut wages and jobs. And again, when corporations have to accept lower profit margins, they don't. That creates inflation. They raise their prices to maintain profits so that their shareholders are happy because they have a, say it with me, fiduciary responsibility to do so. And literally a law.
Notably, this is actually something that Marx talked about hundreds of years, 150 years ago at this point. He noted that sometimes, because of a crisis, either external to the country or internal, sometimes there will be a tendency for the rate of profit to decline.
Yes.
And rather than taking a loss in profit or taking a large loss in profit, the business owner, because they have control over the means of production, will socialize that loss and force the workers out of employment. He said this is one of the crises endemic to capitalism, and that is exactly what happened. If you wanted a Marxist take on the solution, on the situation,
some theory that you could spit out there at the dinner table.
This is just a thing that happens in capitalism.
Exactly.
When profit goes down, the corporations make it so the workers have to pay the cost.
And I mean, I'm going to assume you may be arguing with either an insufferable college-educated conservative or, more likely, a blue-collar worker who supports Trump. Let me put it in terms of some of the most blue-collar workers in America. A spokesperson for the American Farm Bureau said, quote, "Farmers have lost the vast majority of what was once a $24 billion market in China," end quote, as a result of China's retaliation towards the Chinese tariffs. Farmers were overall devastated by the trade war, many of them going bankrupt.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but this is just something Trump did, right?
This is just something that he did. And the whole gist of his trade war with China was that it was the trade war with China and the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was going to create economic growth that would help us pay down the deficit, something he fucking lied about and something that it did not do.
How would that ever help us pay down the deficit?
The trade war with China was supposed to be able to renegotiate deals with them to, again, get more money so that China would pay down the deficit like how water flows super easily won, and they'd get it. We'd make them pay for it with tariffs. But no, we suffered because of that. We suffered. And that was all made so much worse by COVID because, again, critical supply chains are in China.
Yeah.
And he kind of fucked them up.
Yeah.
He hurt small businesses by doing that.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like Trump wasn't very good for the economy at all. And is bad on every other social issue as well.
And it's funny because how he wanted Mexico to pay for the wall, he wanted China to pay for the deficit, and we ended up paying for them. We, the American workers and taxpayers, ended up paying for this guy's, I don't know, at this point, vanity projects. God damn, man.
Just something to keep in mind. And we can even go over a couple of Biden policies that, while imperfect, while they miss the mark of what we want to see as leftists, have certainly helped the economy. The Inflation Reduction Act is one, obviously, subsidized and and offered tax credits for energy and healthcare costs. There was investments in clean energy, allowed Medicare to negotiate drug prices, something the Republicans were against, funding to the IRS, which is good for collecting taxes. As we mentioned before, minimum 15% corporate tax, all good things. All things that help the American working class, at least to some extent. There was the infrastructure bill, which passed a while ago. This one was bipartisan, sort of. There were still, all the Democrats voted for it, like half the Republicans voted for it. So if you can call that bipartisan, then whatever. Investments in clean water, internet services, funding for public transportation, funding for the EPA. And there was also, of course, an attempted student debt cancellation. And if your conservative family member cares about you, and you have been a college student, they should care about this too.
Absolutely.
Because at the very least, even if conservatives think that student debt cancellation is unfair or it shouldn't happen because students are just greedy or whatever, at the very least, economically, it would have made more room for students or people that have graduated to spend more money because they wouldn't have to be spending money on debt repayments.
Yes.
At the very least, it helps the economy grow. Even if you disagree that students deserve any relief at all, at the very least, students have more money to spend, which helps the U.S. economy grow. It's that simple.
Let me be the first to tell you, I don't necessarily like corporations, but I would rather, Walmart get that money than Sally Mae.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm going to say.
Especially because if you have people in debt, in an economy that runs on people spending money, again, they have to be servicing that debt. They can't necessarily be spending money on consumerism, which helps the economy grow.
Yeah.
But beyond that, it just long-term acts as this massive shackle that stunts our growth for years and years to come. And if you care about the economy growing, then you would want that shackle to be removed or lessened to some degree, which is what Biden attempted to do, and he was stopped from doing that by a conservative Supreme Court that was appointed by Donald Trump.
Yes.
It's as simple as that.
Yes.
Like, again, if they don't like the morals behind it, if they think students are stupid and greedy and indoctrinated liberals, fine, whatever. But if the economy is their concern, then this would have helped the economy.
And that's what we got.
It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that.
Truly as simple as that. You know, if all else fails, just hijack the speaker and play this episode.
Yeah, true. Just replay this all for them.
Just start playing this on Thanksgiving. Gather around.
And you can just pause it and be like, debunk this. Pause it at specific moments and be like, all right, what do you have to say?
The good Hiddle listener will have come and made timestamps that they can then refer to as debunk this.
Yeah, just pull up your notepad as you're playing it. Pull up your annotated version of Mein Kampf. That you haven't,
and make sure to shake your head while you're reading it so that they all know that you disagree and look at him and no,
Anyways, I think that brings us to the end of this holiday pregame installment.
Yes.
Part 4, holiday pregame. I think we've covered a broad range of topics. If you think we missed anything, sound off in the comments. Offer your own takes.
We've covered most everything. I would say the only thing that we didn't hit on in this series is the indictment news, like the Trump indictment, weaponization of the DOJ. I guess the quick and dirty in that is all of Trump's guys are turning against him.
Yeah.
Defend that. Defend that. Rudy Giuliani got disbarred.
Yeah.
Like but we also covered the election lie stuff last year. You could refer to that episode, but on the weaponization of the DOJ, that's a tough one.
Yeah, I wanted to try to focus on like economic things with Trump versus Biden here, just because like that's the main thing people think about, right?
That's
like
what I was thinking too.
Voters are motivated by economic issues more than anything else, and that of course makes sense. But yeah, if you want to hit Trump on other things on top of his bad economic policies, you can always say like, yeah, bro's going to jail.
He's fucked
right now, and he tried to steal the election.
Absolutely fucked. And I'd also be remiss to say that I don't know that much about the. I think the most damning one is his New York indictment. We haven't talked about that one too much, about how he's like overestimated his assets and lied on like credit reports and shit like that. But it looks like bro's fucked for that. But what we have talked about is the Maricopa County case, where you can just straight up say Sidney Plowell testified under threat of perjury that they stole data.
Yeah, and they stole data. Did you see there was another video that leaked of her being was it deposed? People just asking her questions.
Dude, hell yeah.
And she's just basically being like, yeah, motherfuckers told him that he lost the election and we just kept going. And it's like sick.
There you go.
What else do you need at that point, right? Like bro is cooked, if not before the election, or if not before the primary, then sometime during the general election, if any of these trials take place before the general election. I don't know how you get out of that.
You can also hit him with the he literally showed maps of sensitive military secrets to just any fucking journalist who would listen. He stole a bunch of documents, but I do think that this is one of the least winningest arguments that you can have.
It's one of the lesser ones, even though like it is important. You know what I mean? Like just showing any journalist you can find highly classified military secrets isn't a great look, but I think the other ones do have a lot more substantial evidence behind them, especially because his own people that were on TV being his own people are coming out against him. And
man, I can't think of anything else. Whoa, that's got to be the quick and dirty of this year. Got to be.
Been lots going on.
Bin Laden's going on.
And I hope that we offered you a comprehensive overview of things that you might hear at the dinner table this holiday season.
And just some of the myriad rhetorical strategies that you can employ.
Yeah, there's lots of options.
There's lots of options.
Lots of tools in your arsenal.
It's like a choose your own adventure.
It really is. It really is.
We have timestamps ready for each point in your conversation. I got to use the bathroom.
What did Hiddo say? What
the fuck did these idiots say?
Exactly. And if you want to sound off in the comments with any tips that you have for dealing with conservative family members this holiday season, go ahead and do it. You know,
more than
it's
welcome
the Hiddo
to.
community.
In fact, you're encouraged.
You're our equals.
Yes.
You're our friends.
You're our friends. This is a democracy, guys. Come on now.
Everything we do it for you.
Exactly.
And we do it for these people.
These people are special friends who we're going to give a special thanks to. I'd like to say thank you to Caden Kraut, Lord Tao the Radiant, Chris the Postman, Christy Beck, 40% Spite, Dylan B, Andrew Harris, Mike Chaplinsky, Mattias T, Omar Zuno, Clayton LaFed, Mark Yeager, Kaz, Caleb Joy, Rich Toro, Tari, Gavin Mayer Maldonado, Hunter W, Fergalaki, Max Vezquez, Jacob Rogers, Colton Mooberry, Fixer Punk, Jim Egbers, Jeff Muzzy, Bagel Burrito, Cincy Alex, Joe Stenstrom, Adrian Sandoval, Chloe Sam 601, Colleen Cuts, Gregory Isn't My Name, Veryuk, Jennifer DeVoe, Big Bird Titty, Crawfishin, Benneth Bennington III, Alexia Benanti, Nietzsche, Big Booty Beatdown, Sam Maloney, Two-Headed Boy, Ben Shapiro's Boyfriend, Jonathan Cassis, Luke O'Shea, Cucker Tarlson, Danielle Jackson, The Word of Microsoft, Jennifer Science, Aaron and his Gundams, Darth Father, Aiden Taylor, Corey Chambers, Sewer Snack, Ellie N, Don Glover, Devin Hatcher,
He fucked it up. Oh my God.
John Glover, my friend, I'm so sorry. Devin Hatchard, Retro Mondo, Meatball Minion,
Emma the Dude Slayer, Claire McMillan, Breezy B, Veronica aka V, Raxon, Ash Smith, The Grotler, Magic Ian 95, Flower Clown, Beetlebugs, Three Crows in a Trench Coat, Lonnie Rogers, Slavic and Sapphic, Casey Lynn Kelly, Snake Eyes, and Hope of Giants, aka Gone, Aquana Don, Zach Lantian, Info Russell, Austin Greif, Marcus Corbett, Caleb Roper, Taylor Rensock, Ishi Teddy, Cammy, Calliope, Reagan Not Like the President.
That's crazy.
Pagan Jester, Tylen Freeman, Steak Daddy, Tay, Isaac Hodges, Madeline C, Pab the Pab 69, Kayla Lowe, Anna Volinick, Eduardo Diaz, KCC, Say Yes to West, August, Natalie Valinsky, Particular Pikmin, Sir Capalot, Jeff Signs, Howard the Duck, Brennan is Egg, JR, Drew Batchilder, Froggy Gumdrop, Evan Malika, Zen doing their best. Damn, oh my God.
Getting everybody today.
Dropping the ball.
Getting everybody today.
Jackie Boy, Shameless, Coherent Babbles, Naomi Valentine, Nikki 9 Live, Sasha, MJ is Sharp, Michaela Muncie, and my mom. Thank you all for supporting the show on Patreon. If I said anyone's name wrong,
damn,
hit us up.
If I said anyone, damn.
It's probably because I read all of Osama bin Laden's letter before coming on.
It's probably and I got radicalized.
I feel like the wool was taken off my eyes, and I finally see the world for what it is, and I just can't read.
I shed a tear.
Yeah,
I shed a tear. I nodded my head while reading to let everyone know I agree.
I'm just emotionally shaken to my core by what Osama bin Laden had to say in his letter. I'm not a Fed.
I'm not, I promise, guys.
Anyways, thank you all for listening, and we hope you have a good holiday week if you're celebrating anything, and we hope that you're prepared.
And remember what you're grateful for.
Yeah.
Head in the office.
Exactly. And we want you to write your letter to America about how great Head in the Office is. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Have a great week.